Indonesia's Minister of Finance Sri Mulyani projects that in the third quarter of 2021, Indonesia's economy can grow in the range of 4 to 5%. This projection is based on Indonesia's economic recovery trends following the pressures caused by the Delta variant in the month of July to August. Suaranya nggak kedengeran nih. Suaranya Bu Ani. Halo? Hah? Ada apa? Apologies for that. To discuss more about Indonesia's growth projection, we'll talk with Chief Economist UOB Indonesia, Enrico Taniwijaya. Hi, Pak Enrico.
Hi.
It's a pleasure.
Good evening, Kania. How are you?
Hi, good. I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Okay. Thank you again for joining us in the show. As we saw earlier, the Minister of Finance projected Indonesia's economic growth in the third quarter could grow 4 to 5%. She said that indicators on consumption, manufacturing, PMI, overall economic activity improved. What is your view on this? Is it too optimistic?
Yeah. Okay. Kania, I think the government has every right to be more on the optimistic side. But when we look at the economic activities and the high frequency data, actually quarter three we start to saw the so-called limitation of movement in a micro scale known as PPKM. It's actually making up the bulk of the quarter three. As such, we downgraded our quarter three forecast quite significantly from initial forecast about 5%, which is in line with the government's current one, into the current forecast of only 2.5%. This is because I think if you look at the center of quarter three, which is the entire month of August, continue until today, I think we saw many restrictions and so-called limitations in the economic activities. And then secondly, because of the uncertainty, people may also delay their purchase of non-essential goods and services. That is why I think we are more so-called less optimistic that we can even hit the 3% mark, and that makes our quarter three projection lower than the government. But we believe we are en route to be a better growth performer in quarter four onwards.
So what's your projection for the fourth quarter? Is it going to be fully absorbed? We saw restrictions mobility in the third quarter, but what about the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I think it will be easily in the range of 4 to 6%. Our point forecast currently is at 4.9%. I think because we are confident with the almost 2+ months of PPKM, when the infection rates can be brought down and the vaccination rates consistently go up, I think this allowing the economy to be open up more reasonably longer, durably, and sustainably. As such, we are confident quarter four we can reach close to 5%. That will bring the entire 2021 GDP growth to a tune of 3.5%, which is a good reversal from a contraction of 2.1% in 2020. And then for next year, we are even more optimistic that the Indonesian economy can grow by at least 5%.
But remembering there are still many uncertainties, like regarding the possible impact of new COVID-19 variants. Are you factoring that in?
Yeah, okay. I think the key here is that the vaccination needs to be ramped up more significantly, which I think that is why we are quite confident the government is on the right track to do that. But secondly, of course, is the health protocol coupled with the so-called testing and tracing procedure. This will allow the economy to be open despite there is a threat of a new variant, which I think this is easily known. as the so-called the known unknown risk, which is we all know there is such risk. We all know there is such risk of a variant coming in, but we don't know whether the new variant will be even worse or mild or the same. So I think the safest way to really open up the economy more durably and sustainably is to make sure that the testing capacity is higher, the tracing ability is higher, and of course, on top of that all, the mask protocol, the hand washing, and of course, the vaccination has to be ramped up significantly.
Okay. Pak Enrico, let's talk about PEN, the PEN budget, which is the Pemulihan Ekonomi Nasional budget or the National Economic Recovery Program budget. The government has only spent around 53% of it, only 42% of budget spent on micro, small, medium businesses, which is important because MSME is the backbone and contributes a lot to the economy. What are your views on the slow spending of PEN budget and how it is impacting rate of economic growth in 2021 and forward?
Okay, yeah, I think, Kania, the key here is on the disbursement, which I believe the government has intended to distribute it to the SME. But I guess here, what needs to be restored and sustained is the consumer confidence. Because at the end of the day, the demand for credit and then business expansion will have to depend on the outlook, including from those who are doing micro, small, and medium business. So with the consumer confidence returning, and when they can be very sure that the market and the people will start to consume goods and services again, then I think the credit demand will come back. And then coupled with the fact that the PEN disbursement is always ready to meet the demand, I think this will hasten up the process of disbursement. So right now, I think we are seeing a good progress with the infection rate going down. The next step is, of course, to instill the consumer confidence such that businesses are more willing to venture into so-called a new channel of, let's say, digital marketing, and then targeting even our own domestic base of consumers, especially so in the badly hit sectors such as the HoReCa, or known as the hotel, restaurant, and cafe. These are where the MSMEs are quite rampant, and I think with a targeted approach and with the faster disbursement to the MSMEs, I think the Indonesian economic recovery can be achieved in a faster pace.
Closely monitoring, besides vaccination, we talked about that, the handling of the pandemic that will impact the overall economic growth in 2021 and forward. And when will you say we'll be going back to the levels before COVID-19 happened?
Yeah, okay. I think we may see a combination of factors are really needed before we can return to the pre-pandemic level. I guess number one, the onus will be on a fiscal policy. So I think the government really need to step on the gas for the remainder of 2021 and probably the entire of next year, because by 2023, we have to return to the fiscal deficit cap of 3%. And I think externally, the situation is also relatively more favorable for Indonesia. And we are seeing Bank Indonesia is able currently to roll with the lower interest rate environment, ample liquidity for the next 18 months or so. And basically the OJK has already announced that they are going to lengthen the so-called credit restructuring until March 2023. So the synergy between the fiscal ministry or the Ministry of Finance, the central bank, and the FSA are basically a key ingredient to really support growth going forward. I think on top of that, as I mentioned before, we really need to instill the consumer confidence, because with 60% of our economy is underpinned by private and household consumption. When they are confident to, let's say, consume back both goods and services, I think we really can achieve the output level in a pre-pandemic. One of the example is that we can actually consider the very early policy that was introduced during the pandemic, which is giving a subsidy to the tourism sector. Now I think is the right time to start giving that kind of discount, rebates, or subsidy, so that we can attract the local tourists. Because currently, even you want to go overseas, the international travel are very complicated, very cumbersome. Why don't we attract them to consume locally? And at the end of the day, this kind of circular support to the economy will result into a much higher and faster growth recovery.